Welcome, ladies and germs, to the 4th episode of the Breakroom podcast, brought to you by East Corp Productions. Oh my goodness, James, we have a lot to talk about today, don't we?
Oh my god, we have so... Okay, guys, so just seriously, if you have not seen just every episode of Westworld and probably the movie Westworld, then just stop listening to this podcast right now. Also, because we're going to be spoiling in our spoiler discussion. Also, if you haven't watched Westworld, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah,
okay?
You really should get on board.
If you thought that if you didn't watch Game of Thrones, you'd be ostracized from society, you have no idea the shitstorm that's about to hit us.
Yeah.
Because Westworld will be the new cultural phenomenon.
Absolutely.
And I get a feeling it's going to be bigger than Game of Thrones.
I think so too, because it has a very good base behind it with Michael Crichton, spark of imagination, and then you have very, very good storytellers of Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, his wife, and then you've got killer star actors like Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris.
Fucking Anthony Hopkins.
Mick Wood? Whatever. So,
Evan Rachel Ross, I think.
Oh yeah, something. The main blonde. I'm sorry. I'm not good with acting names.
But no, seriously, it's such a fantastic show. And, Game of Thrones is... I can almost say Game of Thrones, while it's well written, it's not intelligent writing. It's, the show doesn't make me sit down and think about what's happened. Whereas Westworld, it's a critical thinking show. You're constantly analyzing what's happening.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Game of Thrones is a tricky beast, and hardcore Game of Thrones... I'll give everyone my premise. So, Game of Thrones is one of the many things that I found because of Pony, which is ridiculous how many things in my life are like that now. And so it's I saw this one, it was a ponification of the Game of Thrones intro, and I was like, what the hell is Game of Thrones? And so then I watched, one episode online in a legitimate way, and then I was like, well, fudge. So I went out and bought all of Season 1. This is right before Season 2 aired, and I'm watching Season 1, and then, of course, I get to Episode 9, and I'm like, no, Ned! And so Ned was dead, and, then I was sold. I went back after the fact. I listened to Book 1 and, half of the second book, which is called, Sword of Storms, or something. And the thing is, the books...
Storm of Swords.
The books are much different than the show in terms of presentation. Obviously, books are bigger, obvious, all that. But it's it sort of jumps back and forth from different POVs of the characters. But you're getting it, literally first-person view of said character. And then there are some characters in the show that are very key that don't get a POV in the books. So, and of course, really after Season 2, it starts diverging a lot. There are common... milestone beats that they cross together, but they're it's like a V. They're going in clearly different directions, and so I started with the show. I'm more devoted to the show. Didn't really follow the books all the way, so I do like it. I love the show, but it gets much better in Season 5 when it fully diverges from the books. It's the David, whatever, the two DB guys. Once they have freedom to
D.B. Weiss and David Benioff.
That's it, the Jews. Once they have the freedom to just write, and it's much better. It's just better because they can just go on their own. They're not fully constrained to the whims of the frothing masses of the hardcore book fans. And it made Season 6 so much more enjoyable. I mean, especially the Season 6 ending, the last 2 episodes were the best of the series. I mean, so many payoffs just loaded into those last 2 episodes.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I love about Game of Thrones, which is for a show of its size, there is very little dialogue by comparison. That whole... you've got the Battle of the Bastards, which is, yes, that's mostly action, so you're not going to see a lot of dialogue. But if you look at the season finale for Game of Thrones Season 6, which I think that first 5 minutes is entirely free of dialogue, which, that's something that screenwriters fucking love. We get drilled on this shit all the time in lectures that you When you write, you show, don't tell. I mean, even in Terminal Secrets, I try to do this. I try to show you something despite the lack of visuals, rather than tell it to you. And Game of Thrones really, really does that well. If they can show you something rather than tell it to you, they will do it. Not always. They do slip up sometimes, but I think there's a real skill there.
That's a thing that everyone like subconsciously realizes. It's like you might not notice it, but your brain did. That's a Red Letter Media reference because I love that. And but what they do so well with the show, what they were able to execute, because I mean, Game of Thrones was sort of first of its kind in terms of this like massive HBO like grandiose television storytelling. I mean, in precursors,
TV,
all the big Netflix stuff too. And it's like,
you could say Game of Thrones essentially was the proof that you can throw a movie budget at a TV show and still have it succeed.
And what it does, like obviously, George R.R. Martin, when he was writing the books, it was his freedom because he was a television screenwriter for decades and still is, obviously. But he wrote the books to be like he can make it as grandiose and his master work, as big as he wants. And so he didn't think it could ever be adapted to screen, but they are so good at the atmosphere of the show, the visual storytelling, like James said, where you really feel how big this world is. I mean, it really is the Lord of the Rings of television in terms of fantasy execution and grandeur and size, and it's just, the big sweeping pans, the establishing shots, the quality of the set building, and the CG is good enough. There's a few scenes I kind of wish they could redo, like the ending of season 4 when he's on the wall and they're looking out over the horizon. I really hope they redo that shot someday, but it's just, in general, it is very well executed in that sense.
Yeah. But, like, there are still some, like, even Westworld has some iffy CGI moments. Like, I think it's episode 7 or episode 8, when they're on the train. And just, there's one with William moving between two train carts, and you can see, you can practically see the little green lines around him from the fucking green screen.
Oh,
it looks like the lighting doesn't seem right, or it feels a bit too flat.
Yeah.
And then the problem is it immediately then cuts out to a wide shot of the train coming to a stop on the tracks, and once again the CG on the train. It does look a bit off. It's not bad, and it does the job.
It feels like it was a scene they did at the end of a 12-hour day. That was end of a week.
Yeah, it didn't ruin anything for me, but I did notice it.
Yeah, I think specifically us, we're kind of, because we're so much on the production side of things now, we notice all those little details.
I've been fairly bad at noticing CG. I really do get bad. I do get bad at it. But that I did notice. Westworld. Oh my god, that just we need to discuss the whole series really. But
I know.
Should we start with
Okay,
so
we've talked about
should
it
we just
before,
run through?
But yeah, we could prime people again. It was a concept. It was written for a movie screen. It started out as what is it? The original movie.
Well, it started out as a book first.
No, it was written for screen first.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there is no book. Right, that's one of the only Michael Crichton properties that was screen only. And so, yeah, it was just this idea that he sold to whatever studio produced the original movie. And, I mean, they spun it like crazy. There was a TV show in the 70s, and then there was their Future World, which was like a non-Michael Crichton sequel, which sucked. Well, it was okay.
Also, keep in mind, Future World was a huge hallmark because Future World was the first time that we saw 3D computer-generated images of human beings.
Oh shoot, you're right.
With the robotic hand and the robotic face.
Yes.
That was the first real use of CG in a live-action movie.
I remember too for Future World, because I love like science and engineering porn. They had a lot of the underground like facility stuff, and I just I get gushy for that stuff. That's great. So Future World is good. It's good, but I mean obviously it's not the original.
It's not Westworld. The original movie was really excellent. The original movie was an excellent premise with a good execution. The Westworld TV show is Michael Crichton's excellent premise with all the execution that we wanted. Like, it is brilliant execution.
Yeah, this was obviously like a labor of love, something that Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy were trying to get for a long time, I assume. I don't know too much of the history. Like, really, the whole series caught me off guard. I remember it was just summertime. I was like, not really paying attention because Game of Thrones had ended, so I'm not logging into OBH anymore. And so then out of nowhere I see some article online. It's like, oh yeah, new Westworld premiering soon. I'm like, Westworld, what? That old movie from the 70s? And I looked it up, and it was literally like it hit me out of nowhere, and it came on, and holy cow, did that was well executed.
I remember when the first teaser trailer came out. That was like 2 years ago already. Good Lord. And a friend of mine sent it to me, and he was like, dude, they're making a show set in the West with all these robots, and it's taking influence from BioShock and Red Dead Redemption. It's like they sat down and said, what show would Christian and James like to see more than anything else? Let's make that show. And then Westworld actually did. I thought I forgot about it for a really long fucking time, and then
That's good.
Then I sat down like 10 weeks ago, and this fucking I see online. It's like Westworld premieres the second biggest, or no, the biggest HBO premiere behind, I think, True Blood or The Vampire Diaries. I don't remember which one it was that HBO did, but whatever. And it's like, oh shit, Westworld, I forgot that was the thing. Let's watch it. Watch that very first hour and 20-minute long episode, and it just blew my fucking mind.
Yeah. And it's really like, I mean, now I have to watch the whole thing from the start because of the way it ended.
Yes.
But we'll get to that. So it's like, so again, for anyone that doesn't seem to understand, it's basically, so you've got this reservation in the West somewhere. I assume it's Nevada, because Nevada's a glorious, well, it used to be a glorious Wild Wild West. Now it's becoming freaking something else. But anyway, so in the middle of nowhere, like this company Delos builds, this man's dream. It's like it was the progenitor for Jurassic Park, and really in a lot of ways the show executes what the original Jurassic Park novel was. It's like John Hammond in the novel, he's not this like sweet, loving, Disney-like old man. He was a bit of a power, megalomaniac. And that's much more truly executed with, obviously, Anthony
with Robert
Hopkins.
Ford.
Yeah. So
Anthony Hopkins plays the most dangerous and threatening grandpa in the world.
I mean, incredible. One of my favorite scenes from the whole series so far is in episode 4 when he's having the wine with what's her name out on the veranda. And he just like...
That's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, and he just waves his hand and everything stops around him. Like he is literally God in this world. The robots stop, the construction vehicles at the bottom stop. Everything stops around them. And he just like... this power dominance that he just does with the flick of his wrist, and he takes full control of everything. It was incredible. And immediately that woman, like... She's melting before his eyes.
Exactly. They used the God metaphor with Robert Ford on a regular basis, but it never feels overplayed. It never feels like it's overused. It never feels like they're just pushing that limit a bit too far. No, it always feels appropriate. Yeah. And maybe, not necessarily because of the writing, in big part because of the writing, but also because of Anthony Hopkins' performance.
Yeah, he knows how to carry it.
Exactly. You can take... you could give Anthony Hopkins the worst writing imaginable, and he could make it amazing. For example, Thor: The Dark World.
Thor: The Dark World was 3 movies put together, and only one of those movies was good.
I'm sorry. Okay, so
No, I shit all over Thor: The Dark World. Yeah. This is Anthony Hopkins in true Anthony Hopkins form. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is Anthony Hopkins being given some of the best material that he's ever been given, and I'm including fucking Silence of the Lambs in this.
Oh, yeah, he has a lot more screen time than Silence of the Lambs, for sure. He hasn't eaten anyone's face yet, but, I mean, faces are involved with the robots, so you never know.
Well, I mean, he can't really eat faces at this point.
He's on a low-face diet. It's very high in cholesterol.
After what Dolores did to him, yes, he's missing. He's on a bit of a low-face diet. He's missing some. He's lost some face.
Well, here's the thing too. So it's like I because I hate myself for some reason, I read a bunch of articles talking about like end of season and like what's coming and everything. So I could give a few insights about that. So basically, I forgot about this because I sort of I've had a terrible sort of real life the last 2 months, and so I've watched these in these staggered moments. But with episode 6 or whatever, when you first see the field laboratory, and where he's got that one machine, and it was making a robot. I almost said synth. It's making a host when he's in there showing it to Bernard, when we still thought Bernard was a person, and then apparently that he was making a host of himself. There's a theory that Anthony Hopkins isn't dead. He made an Robert Ford host, and that's the guy who got shot at the theater.
Oh shit! That would actually make sense.
That bitches, which I really hope he is, because that's a character.
Yeah.
It would have been poetic. It would have worked thematically, but it's like I want one more season with him. He's a good character.
Yeah, like the thing, like Robert Ford has he's completed his narrative role for the story. Like, arguably speaking, you could continue the rest of the story without him. He's not needed. But oh my God, Anthony Hopkins is such a joy to watch on screen.
Yeah.
That I don't want him to be gone. His moments on screen are by far the highlights of Westworld, which is an impressive feat considering how many highlights there are to Westworld.
Yeah, and I mean, he dominates even in the presence of the Man in Black, which is much more, like, his figure is more imposing, but Anthony Hopkins' character is more imposing. So he just commands your attention when he walks on screen.
And speaking of the Man in Black, I mean, look, Ed Harris does such a good job, and I'm so glad to see he's back for season 2.
See, I didn't know that when I finished. I thought, I didn't pay enough attention. I gotta watch all this again. And it's like, yes, because especially we have the reveal that he was William, and that those scenes were sort of, intermixed at different time frames, which was really cool in the sense that you feel the idea of the loops, that it's the same thing over and over again.
But on the other hand, the other problem is that we had all seen this coming.
Yeah.
Like, I remember finishing episode 2 and going onto Reddit to talk about it, and just fucking everyone there is like, yeah, no, he's William. He's William.
Yeah.
And then as the episodes went on, the evidence kept piling up. It kept piling up. It's like, yeah, no.
I liked the final reveal, though, about how basically, like, William, he's like, he was very naive in the sense that, I don't know, he, like, obviously he was sort of a weakling in the sense that he was just coming up in the company, he was marrying into, like, really big leadership because he met, I don't know if they ever said his wife's name, the brother-in-law's sister.
Nah.
No, not really. And it's like, he seemed like, honestly, he seemed too nice to be any kind of corporate leadership whatsoever. And so then when there's the final reveal of, like, he falls in love with Dolores, like, hopelessly. And I had to kind of agree with the brother-in-law to be like, bro, she's a robot. Come on now. It's getting a little bit creepy. It's like taking your frickin' sex doll out on dates or something. And and so then when he comes back to the park the second time, before that. So then basically the brother-in-law pushes him too far and he's frickin' snaps. And I assume he killed the brother-in-law, right? Is that what we're supposed to assume? Like,
I don't know if he killed the brother-in-law more or sort of sent him off and let him go crazy. Like he spoke about the fact that they need someone who's stable, and the brother-in-law was like cackling madly at the end. So like, I think he wanted the brother-in-law to go crazy, or at least he wanted him to be perceived as crazy.
Yeah, so they find him naked in the desert and be like, okay, I guess that was one too many visits to, Fantasyland.
And
it's like...
he went to Fantasyland is the other theme park.
Well, it's like the old adage about, like, you don't get high in business unless you're some kind of sociopath. And so we've got then true American Psycho form. William goes back the next time and he realizes, oh yeah, my love doll can be reset, and now she just falls for the next guy that picks up the soup can. And so that, like, snaps in him, and suddenly, it's all downhill. Then the real ruthless corporate psychopath comes out.
Yeah, and at that point, it's a great way of transitioning, because the big question that had been sitting in my head was, if the Man in Black was William, how does he go from being hopelessly in love with Dolores to very casually beating and raping her on a regular basis as the Man in Black? And this was a really, really good explanation to show how he sort of goes down that path, where as soon as he sees that she can be reset so simply, and that he means so little in the grand scheme of her life, going through the loops, and the fact that from the implications that he sometimes joined her on this journey again, like more than once, to go and find the center of the maze. Like the way they sort of explain it is that she's tried to find it multiple times, and that he's been with her on a few of those. It's like to show how he's gotten so bored of her that to see her as this robot that she is, which I like to think that that's part of the reason why he wanted to why he wants the hosts to be able to fight back and be free and so on, because in his mind it would make her human and prove that it might be possible to salvage something of what they used to have.
Yeah. Here's the thing too. This is probably not a popular theory, but I don't think any of them are truly sentient yet. Even though she speaks to herself, quote unquote, at the end scene there in season 10, when the transitioning's happening from Bernard's voice, it cuts through Anthony Hopkins first before going
It does,
to
I
her.
noticed that.
And
yeah.
I'm still thinking myself, he's this grand puppet master. It's like, just like with Maeve, he's the one who engineered all this to happen, and she, even when she supposedly has free will, she goes in perfect lockstep and does exactly what he wanted her to do, coming up behind him, maybe not that theatrically, but shooting him on stage, and then everyone, kicks off the big robot uprising, and even Maeve, the command is escape. That's not necessarily escape the park. She's escaped the bounds of the fantasy world. She's already in mixed society.
That's not actually true though. Like, I agree that I don't think Dolores has achieved sentience yet, but I think Maeve is closer to it, because remember, Bernard took very careful care to mention that she reaches the mainland in the story that had been laid out for her.
Yeah.
He said, he was like, once you reach the mainland, and then she takes it and she snaps the device and she fucks off. But in this case, she doesn't. She goes to find her son. She returns to the park. So it's like, the command wasn't the escape. The command was like, you go to the mainland.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's basically what Jonathan Nolan said too. I don't know. I'm very particular when it comes to robot sentience. It's like, it's gotta be real for me. So
I think Maeve is closer to sentience than
I'd go
but
with
then
that
again
closer.
But then again, like, considering the reveal that everything Maeve has done was just was planned out, probably by Ford, I don't want to trust any of this.
Yeah, no, I'm
Like,
very suspicious as things go, which is why if
We've-
Ford is really alive, that would be really fun to see. Because in the interview, Jonathan Nolan talked about how season 1 is structure and season 2 is chaos. So the next season's going to be all sorts of crazy crap.
Exactly. Like, besides, we've also seen, because what's interesting is you could argue that when we see the tablet, which has the instructions of, you know, escape and mainland and so on, you could argue that that's not a cutaway, but rather that's Maeve's POV. And we know for a fact that the point of view, the perspectives of the hosts can be modified, that they can see what Ford wants them to see or not see what Ford doesn't want them to see.
That's true, too, yes.
So you could argue that Maeve is still completely under Ford's control, and and this is just another trick to make her think she's achieved sentience, that she's now like, well, the instructions said go to the mainland, and I saw it said go to the mainland, and Bernard told me it said go to the mainland, but I'm now making an active choice not to. Meanwhile, the ghost of Robert Ford is like, ha, 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 I tricked you again. Like, I don't want to believe anything in this show now.
No, exactly.
Especially, like, the final punch in the gut was that post-credit scene, which I did not expect them to do a post-credits.
No, I wasn't either. I was just kind of screwing off, like, looking at Facebook on my phone, and then that hit me out of nowhere.
Because that post-credit scene, I think, might be the biggest reveal of the series, is that Armistice, who has been a host following them around for so long, we've seen her die and be killed so many times. But in that final scene, she stabs, her arm is caught, and she stabs, and she rips her arm out, well, half of her arm out, and she sort of swings the stump towards the camera, but she's got fucking bone and sinew. There's nothing robotic inside of her. So that version of Armistice is 100% human.
I don't know, because remember, I mean, when they build the synths, hosts, they start with bones, and so I think it's just like synths where it's really, really convincing on like a biological level.
Not entirely, because I mean, we also see that the thing is that when we've seen mechanics inside of the hosts before, when the Man in Black sculpts that one dude, and when William's brother-in-law, you know, stabs Dolores and rips her gut open to show the machinery inside.
Because Dolores is an older model. She's the oldest model.
Yeah, no, she's an older model, but but like they wouldn't show us that specifically.
It was very good for effect.
They took great care to show us the inside of her arm. And if you consider that Armistice is a very minor character.
I want to see more of her, though. She's a great character.
Well, I genuinely, like, her ripping off her arm and fighting those dudes, like, we wouldn't have given a shit about that. Unless she is actually a human being.
I hope either way she ends up doing a Ash from the Evil Dead thing, where she just gets like a chainsaw arm or something.
Fucking right.
That would be awesome.
And another way, I'm really excited. Like, the fact the show is really, like, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about Westworld promoting critical thinking. Is that it is so hard to be certain of anything. I mean, I thought that after revealing that Teddy was really a host in the first episode, I was like, okay, cool, that's a really, really cool idea. And you know, I'm sure, like, when I talk to my mates about it, I'll be like, no, dude, you won't know who's human and who's a robot, but inside I'll know. No, they've played that card now. We're not going to actually get any reveals further down the line about humans being robots because they've played that card. What else are they going to do with that?
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm afraid of, is that it becomes like Battlestar Galactica, where that's the only thing to the show. But I feel like they're being smarter than that. There's a lot more going on.
Yeah, like if you think about, they only did three. They did three major reveals of people being who they thought they were. So you had Teddy being a synth, you had possibly Armistice being a human, and of course you had Bernard being a synth.
Bernard, actually, that surprised me. Here's what I thought. I thought actually it was Ford. I thought Ford was like one of the first synths created by Arnold. And then he killed Arnold, so now he's been running things as head synth in charge. And then everyone's, it's like, that's what I thought would be the big reveal, but no, that turned things on their head for me.
Like, I thought that Arnold had rebuilt his own consciousness, like sort of copied his own consciousness, like almost Red versus Blue director style, and implanted it in Dolores. Which is kind of like that, where he added his voice as a consciousness to guide her, but not really.
I actually thought the whole creation of Bernard was actually a really interesting character moment for Robert Ford, because it's like, yes, he is, soulless, megalomaniac, this is my mini world, I am God. At the same time, his friend dies, and it's like he goes through the trouble to recreate him and sort of breathe as much similar life into him as he could from his own memory. This is getting into, like, text territory now, but it's like, it is weirdly sweet. It's like he did have some kind of connection with him.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. And unlike Tex, he actually managed to build a really, really accurate replica.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually also probably the closest thing to sentient. It's like him and Dolores and Maeve are in like a foot race of sentience right now. Who's going to win the Turing test?
Well, I mean, one of the fantastic things was on Shower Thoughts, on our Shower Thoughts on Reddit, someone put up a post saying, the thing I'm not scared of a robot who can pass the Turing test. I'm scared of a robot who can fail it on purpose. And then and then underneath it, Jonathan Nolan came on and he commented, "Boy, have we got a show for you!"
Oh my gosh,
Which, first of all, major props to Jonathan Nolan for referencing the original Westworld with their original slogan. "Boy, have we got a vacation for you!" Major props to him for that. That just shows that he is an actual fanboy of the original Westworld.
Yeah.
But also that sort of links in there. Like, Westworld's not about a robot who's going to pass the Turing test. It's about robots who will achieve sentience to the point where they will fail this intentionally.
No, it's clever, and that's it's basically at the point where they are smart. They outsmart Robert Ford is pretty much when I'll accept that they're truly sentient, because right now he still seems like the ultimate puppet master, especially if that he used the synth theory at the end is correct. And then that would be a great, at least for me, that's what would convince me that one of them's really, person. That it's... Because otherwise, they're all still freaking robots to me. I don't know. I think of, whenever I think of AI, I think of freaking Halo Reach and all the dumbass Noble team members that continue walking in circles when I just want you to get in the freaking Warthog turret so we can kill some motherfucking aliens. They're all up in my motherfucking planet. So
whenever I think of AI, I always think back to Red versus Blue, because that just makes me want to have an AI, because I want to have a snarky, shit-talking dude who can who can hold like just 100 gigs of porn for me.
I want in a future Red versus Blue season, I would love a scene where, just a throwaway comedy scene. I don't think they've done this before, where they could just like shut off Church's or Epsilon, whatever, his IQ for like a minute, and so he's like below Caboose, dumb, and he has like a dumb conversation. I thought that would be hilarious, because he's all robot now. You just play with the dials.
Yeah,
it's just like in Westworld, how they just play with the anger dial or intensity dial or fighting dial.
But like, so like a friend of mine was talking. We were talking about the concept of AI achieving sentience and so on, and it sort of does get to a point where it's like, if we create something that becomes smart enough to know that what we're doing to it is horrific, at that point, do we treat it like a human being, giving it full rights
Yeah.
and so on.
That's because that's the ultimate question: is sentience implies that then it deserves some special treatment, and so, or like equal treatment with humans.
Exactly. It falls under that whole "what does it mean to be human" paradigm.
Yeah, because
And it's
especially
not the
for Robert Ford, or at least it used to, when the park still worked the way it did, the whole point of them was that they weren't too human, or you didn't want them, or at least especially the corporate, they didn't want them too human because they're just AI. It's all a fantasy game. You don't want it to be exactly perfect because then you get into the frickin' Call of Duty problem or Ghost Recon problem where it's like, oh yeah, one bullet killed me, just like in real life. Well, I mean, I would have just joined a militia if I wanted that. This is a freaking game. I want my Master Chief armor and my freaking, hollow shield and whatnot. Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Maybe that's just me.
And that also, I just realized there's episode 1 has a brilliant hint about Bernard being Arnold.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just realized it. So aside from Bernard's obsession with Ford's reveries, which we then found out that was Arnold's creation, there's also when Vanessa, the QA, the head of the QA team, I can't remember what her name was now.
The snarky younger woman, like 20 something.
No, that was Elsie. No, the chick
one Bernard
yeah, the one Bernard was banging.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Corporate
like they were
whatever.
Yeah. She's shitting on Bernard and Elsie about a malfunctioning host, and Bernard sort of stops her in the middle and sort of points to her forehead, and talks about the slight way her eyebrows crease, and that he'd love to get her in to show it to his team so that they could copy that. And it's like that tiniest detail that Arnold would have been obsessed with in trying to make his hosts as human as possible.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
That no one else really noticed, but Bernard very specifically had to stop this really important meeting on a malfunctioning host because he saw another way to make them more human.
See, that's why I got to watch it again. And that's what, that in writing in general, I always work for that achievement too, is I want to be able to write a story that's good enough that, it makes you want to listen again to catch those little details, that you want to come back and experience it again. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really, really tough thing to do as well. Like,
yeah.
I started trying to do it with Terminal Secrets, but eventually I had to sort of stop and be like, you know what? No, I don't because you also run the risk of ruining the story.
Yeah.
If you do that, like that's I don't feel like I'm quite at that level yet. It's some really high level shit.
Yeah.
It's always nice to strive for, but I personally am not there. Like, really fucking bravo to Jonathan Nolan for this. They definitely. I'm excited to see where Westworld is going.
That's what I was going to say. I'm really glad that the second world that they sampled wasn't one of the originals, that they chose a new samurai world instead, because it says that they're going to go beyond just the original set,
source material.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was also one of the most fantastic reveals, because in the original movie, it wasn't just Westworld. They spent a lot of time, like the Delos Park had Westworld, but it also had Roman world and it had medieval world. And the shows and the movie spent a fair amount of time in Roman world and medieval world. Yep. And I mean, the finale, the climax of the episode happens in a dungeon in medieval world.
Yep.
And it's really, really fantastic. But with Westworld, I thought that they just decided, you know what, we're just going to do the Westworld section. We don't want to get too convoluted. And then you get towards the end of the episode, and you see like this, and you see the SW text, and like, is there a character named SW? Wait a second. And they burst in, and as soon as you see the first samurai suit of armor, especially if you've seen the original movie, it hits you like a fucking hammer.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm sure people who hadn't seen the movie immediately understood what was happening as well, but it was just like, oh my god, this is both and yet another amazing homage to the movie and a great step forward for the show.
It really makes sense too, because it's like if you're going to go through the trouble to set up, this elaborate fantasy world, why would you limit yourself to one scenario? It's like, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, the West is like very low in terms of what scenarios I'd want to try. Like, in terms of runtime, I'd probably play that the least. But it's like, the idea of setting it up on Westworld is good, though, in the sense of, like, the meaning, like the metaphors, because it's sort of the West in that it's got that wild, unhindered, you do whatever you want, and you are sort of your own master of your own land kind of thing. It's very...
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very appropriate for, like, the setup, the premise.
Besides, it also acts as a really, really good juxtaposition, or rather, let's go with juxtaposition of how of what the West used to be, or rather, with how the West ended compared to how they're bringing the West back. See, the way, like we know, especially if you played the first Red Dead Redemption, the West was ended because the civilized world had gotten tired of looking down on it. It was a case of you will become part of the civilized world. The cowboys and the lawlessness and the gunslingers. You will put down your weapons or you will die, and you will join us in civilization. And in Westworld, it's juxtaposed with the fact that now the civilized world is escaping, has recreated the West because they need to escape into this lawless world of heroes and gunslingers and cowboys, because the civilization has become too much for them.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the way that the hosts are ridiculously competent. Like that, yes, they're designed to lose to the hosts are designed to lose to the guests. But as soon as their leashes are off, suddenly it's like our Mr. said, the gods are pussies. Suddenly humans in their comforts, so used to winning and so used to the powers of civilization, are losing. And suddenly this lawless world is taking itself back, which is just such a fucking fantastic way of setting it up.
Yeah, especially for then whatever happens in... Because apparently they have like 5 seasons of potential planning. So season 2 is going to be huge for, all the reaction to what's just happened at the end of season 1, and then whatever else new it sets up for season 3, because I'm guessing it'll get funding. Especially because Game of Thrones ends with season 8, I think. I think 7 and 8 are going to be like 8-episode shorter seasons.
I've heard the last rumor I heard was that it was going to be a 13-episode season 7.
That makes more sense,
I've heard
probably.
I've heard rumors on both sides.
Yeah. We're getting closer to the end now that frickin' Daenerys has finally gotten off her fat ass and gone west toward frickin' Westeros. It's like, oh my gosh, stop dicking around in Essos already. Just go. Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of that.
The second half of season 5 and the first half of season 6 was so fucking boring to me.
Yeah.
Like, there was too much dicking around in Essos.
She's just so
which is
dumb. It's like...
It actually made me really, really scared for season... I'm so glad that they're not doing 2 full seasons, because what I was scared of was that they would have Daenerys arrive in King's Landing, conquer it in 1 episode, and then have the rest of the season just be her trying to maintain control of King's Landing, and it'd be like, no, you just did the storyline in Essos. We don't want to see this again.
Yeah, especially now that finally winter is here. I want to see White Walkers like everywhere. I want to see them almost like, not full-on zombie show, but, they're starting to get pushed further south because they really can't stay too long. Like, King's Landing's going to be, or not King's Landing, Winterfell's going to be like the precipice, and even then I think they're going to end up having to partially abandon it or like raise all the gates or something, because it's like I don't know. And also I'm so glad, even if it was a little bit, you know, convenient, I'm glad they brought back Jon Snow, because I want him to win. I really don't want Daenerys to win. I want her dragons to like screw up everything, and then she's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have sat, you know, in freaking Essos for 3 years. Oh, and then she dies. Or maybe they hook up. Well, no, they're kind of like brother and sister.
Yeah, but the Targaryens bang each other all the time.
That's true too. Yeah.
But like, what I want and what I hope they do in the first, like in the opening episode of season 7, is that they kill off her biggest dragon.
Oh yeah. I don't know the name.
Drogon. Yeah. Which also, that's a terribly uninspired name. I'm sorry. But a dragon named Drogon. I'm sorry. That's just, no. Like, you've got 2 other characters. You've got Viserion and Rhaegal. Those are cool names.
Especially,
also,
I just want one solid episode where they totally siege a city and like turn something into freaking, what's the melted castle? Harrenhal. They turn another kingdom into freaking Harrenhal. I want to see that, you know, melted brick, and then...
I could see them doing that to the Red Keep, like just melting the Red Keep. Like, not the whole of King's Landing, just the Red Keep.
It could be, but I feel like thematically they're going to want to leave that where it is. Maybe it'll be like the Vale or something. That could be interesting.
Well, yeah, actually, it could be the Vale, because the Vale, like, they spend a lot of time building up the fact that that no one has ever conquered the Vale because of its...
that's true, too.
Because of its location.
Yeah.
That, like, an army can't march to the Vale. It's like... It's like... yeah, I mean, it's like 300. It's, you know, you can march, like, 4 soldiers next to each other with these giant walls and archers above you. Like, there's no fucking way an army can attack the Vale. And I think they even said, like, dragons could do it.
Yeah.
And you see that, yeah, no, dragons could fucking melt the Vale. I'm sorry, not the Vale, the Eyrie. The Eyrie.
Oh, yeah, the Vale is the area, right? Yeah. And the Eyrie is the castle.
The Vale is the area, the Eyrie is the castle.
Yeah.
But, like, what I want to see Daenerys lose something. That's why I want to see one of her dragons get killed, specifically the big one. The thing is that right now she's too unstoppable. Yeah. We haven't actually seen Daenerys lose.
Yeah, she really is a bit of Mary Sue, except for how dumb she is. Like, really, all of her mistakes are just literally her, like, just poor decision making. It's like,
Like, I like her, but it's, yeah, no.
I liked her up until, like, season 3, and then I'm like, no, it's too long. There's too much time scrolling around. You're always scrolling around. Just go west already. I don't know.
It feels like I don't know, like, my issue with Game of Thrones is that it always feels like they're spending too much time, like, the problem is that it's like, so for example, season 4, while Daenerys is dicking around in Essos, because that season is about moving Tyrion. It's about moving Tyrion's pieces into place so that he can then go. And season 5, once again, is about moving Tyrion's and Jon Snow's pieces into place yet again. Like, that's the problem, is that the whole of Game of Thrones, it doesn't feel like every character is, like, their storyline is constantly flowing and moving. It feels like for a whole season, one character is, they've got nothing, that character's got nothing to do, and they're just waiting for the next character for their story to sort of be moved into place. As much as I enjoy the show, and I think it's well written, I feel like the narrative pacing is very poor.
Yeah, and I think that's why it got better with 6, in my opinion, because they are no longer shackled to the book. So
yeah, exactly. Like, people often forget that pacing is really, really hard to do. That it's something that a lot of really, really great books don't succeed at, and often they don't get a lot of fault for it. And I'm going to get a lot of hate on this. I know I am. but I don't. But as much as I loved the writing in Fallout Equestria, I don't think the pacing was very good.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Like,
well, you can tell it
like,
was written in a sort of serial format, where it's like she released, you know, and a chapter a week or whatever it was, and so especially the first half, you can tell it's like a game of Fallout. You're doing all these little side quests first, and you're sort of like building up the XP of your character and the levels, and then she actually, you know, does the important stuff, and it like kills the goddess, and then, you know, kind of goes from
exactly.
there. Yeah.
I didn't notice it as much when I was doing when I was reading it the first time, but when Mohan, JD, and I were going through it and Sonic were going through it at Stable-Take we were planning out what plot points are going to make it into the animated series. What is our episode content going to be?
Yeah.
And so the big thing was we were looking at what we were going to have to cut, and a lot, so much had to get cut, and it was mostly the side story, the side quests, like fucking Little Pip going to find the records for Homage, like that got cut without a second thought. We felt it was completely pointless to it. We kept Blackwing's talons in, but only because I insisted, because I really, really wanted to write that specific episode, because it had some decent character moments for Pip that we could work with from
I'm glad you fought
into
for
the
it,
whole
but I
narrative.
would have kept the Griffins in it all. I would have made them like Raiders, just disposable villains.
No, see that's the problem. Is I love the Talons. I back in the early Stable-Take days, I originally pitched a comic series entirely starring the Talons.
Okay.
Like young Gordina Grimfeathers leading her, like sort of learning to lead her talons. And so I really, really enjoyed them. This idea of the Raiders with a slight, because the Talons basically are Raiders.
They were decent characters for sure. I just felt like in the grand scheme of things, they, like you said about
in the grand scheme of things.
it bothered me too a little bit, especially the way I actually listened to it, because oh my gosh, it's so long.
You could cut the Talons entirely. The only like real plot significance that they add that changes the story in a major way is bringing the Griffin democracy into Equestria. And even that's mentioned in passing, and you could find a way to do it without using the Talons.
Yeah.
But it is a nice piece of world building. So as much as I like them, no, you could cut them. We didn't, obviously, because we really liked them, and because like we tried to cut as little as possible when we were planning out the storyline. It didn't even
ultimately matter, but
but yeah, it didn't matter in the end because we never released a single episode.
In the end, it so.
But we tried to keep in as much of the major stuff as possible. Because that pacing was important to us, and just cutting, like, if we could have, for a long time we genuinely considered just cutting out the Enclave entirely.
Oh, see,
and finding a way to give.
I'd cut the goddess before I cut the Enclave, because the Enclave really are the ultimate villains in the book, even more so than Red Eye.
And the thing is that the Enclave have such a shitty.
Oh, you're gonna make Krelak mad.
I'm gonna make Krelak mad. I shouldn't make Krelak mad because he's doing all my art. But I love the Enclave as an idea, but their setup is done really badly.
I feel the same.
And the problem is that K-Cat, like if Red Eye had not been in the story, it would have been fine. The Enclave would have been a great villain. But the problem is, I consider Red Eye one of my favorite villains of all time. I'm not talking fan fiction or just literature or just like, I'm talking in every form of media and storytelling. I think Red Eye is probably one of the best villains ever created.
Well, yeah, he was definitely one of the most well-written. Complex and everything. It's just like, it's basically just because the Enclave ended up being sort of the ultimate bad guy in terms of like the final thing to conquer. But no, I agree. if
Yeah,
I were K-Cat, I would reorganize some of those plot lines a little bit better.
Well, you could have given the Enclave story to Red Eye, because the other thing is the way they killed Red Eye was really, really stupid. Because the problem is that K-Cat gave Red Eye such a well thought out, perfect, and bulletproof plan that the only way to that it was impossible to figure a way out of it. The only way she could do it was being like Hellhound Ex Machina, But the way she could have done it was cut out the Enclave entirely, have Red Eye succeed in his plan using other unicorns rather than Little Pip, to which he had the possibility to do. He threatened her with that concept, and rising to godhood, and then because his thing was controlling the weather, and then have Little Pip go to the Single Pegasus Project Tower and control the weather from there, because that was like her big thing.
Yeah, I tell you what, too, I would be freaking pissed off at the Pegasi after all that. It's like, I know we just destroyed all your land and homes and stuff, but you guys still need to pay a little bit. It's like, it's just like with Fluttershy. It's like, first you execute her in public, and then you take care of like maybe the entire Enclave High Council, and then you kind of work the others into society, but they need to earn their damn way. They got to go, and they got to have a normal pay in normal fields on the ground, no more of this cloud bullshit, and it's like, you got to put them sort of like, reconstruction. It's like, come on, guys, you can't do this crap anymore.
So, even the goddess, like, you could cut the god. Like, I was listening to another Fallout Equestria podcast.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things. I mean, it was his aspiration, like, but it's like, it's like, that's the thing, too. It's like, those two weave together well, because at least that gives him the idea of the unity. But then the Enclave just, like, I mean, they basically just panic at the end, and then they're like, okay, we're going to invade now. Oh, we got to stop the mainlanders, because there's stuff's going on below. It feels,
exactly.
It feels kind of accurate. Like, that sounds like something a Congress would do, but still.
But the problem is that the Enclave just come out of nowhere, whereas Red Eye Red Eye's setup starts right at the beginning, with his first broadcast. And then you see it every time you see the slavers. You feel the presence of Red Eye. You feel,
you know what? That's the
his
ultimate
influence.
problem, is that we just don't have enough pre-scenes of the Enclave. Like, in the first half of the book, if there were the occasional, like, they bump into what's the small ship? The Thundercloud? That's the big one. If they run into a few small cloud ships, or
Raptors, it's a Raptor.
Or like small squadrons of like fully armored Pegasi they have to fight, and maybe one of them notices Calamity and he takes that info back up home, and then Calamity's like, oh, what the hell are they doing on the ground? I've never seen these many squads before. Like that the Enclave are investigating, or they're like picking up that something's about to go down. So at least it's not like, it does feel like they just first, like, really entered the story halfway through. It's a bit...
Exactly. Like, to be fair, K-Cat did try to make Colonel Autumnleaf more interesting and more unique. Making him the runt of the litter. Even Calamity, who's a nerdy, who's a fucking dashite, is probably... he's better in their father's eyes than Autumnleaf. Like, that's like, so the idea of this, so she tried to make him more interesting, but it's the lack of setup, which just takes the Enclave from being the lack of setup, and the comparison to the Red Eye storyline takes the Enclave from being something that on its own would be very strong to something that is below par, which I hate saying that about a book that I really fucking love, but I have to say it.
We've praised it a lot. We can be a little bit honest about what we don't like about it. At least I have. I'm not sure if you listen that far back. I used to be on this one podcast called the Lunar Echoes podcast, and we did this the big Fallout Equestria special. One. It's on my Skyvolt channel if you guys ever want to listen. It's a lot of fun, and it's basically us just praising the book for 2 hours. But and so
I listened to the Lunar Echoes podcast back when I first got hired at Stable Tech.
Oh,
actually.
nice! I'm glad. It was good
Yeah.
practice for me because it's like
It was a good podcast.
I love like I'd listened to podcasts for years since the Rooster Teeth. I discovered that podcast, but it's like I hadn't really done one before, and so that was great practice before we really got rolling into our new form of things.
Absolutely. Fucking. So yeah, we've praised Fallout Equestria, and obviously with fans, I mean, we devote an obscene amount of our time to creating Fallout Equestria spin-offs.
But no, I felt the same way. Like in general, like that's one of the reasons, as I explained in my behind the scenes with Confessions video. It's like a lot of the Enclave stuff you could do is already done. And even some of the ideas I did have that I thought were clever, I ended up sort of like piecing them out into other stories. So it's like, I did have an Enclave-focused idea at one point, but because of the nature of Confessions, it couldn't work in terms of like the Wasteland and the Enclave. And so everything got recovered. It all got parsed out into other stories, but it's like, I think people will notice those when they come out, as they come out.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
And I got such fun, more interesting original stuff coming up, like, episode 7's going to be fun. As soon as I finish it, too, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, no, our upcoming content is really, really going to be fucking fantastic between, we've got Terminal Secrets episode 3 is so close to being done. It is so fucking close. Like, I know it's been a 5-month wait at this point.
We've had a lot of roadblocks.
We've hit a few roadblocks. We really wanted to step up our game on sound editing this time. So James Kelly's just been working his. We've been working Kelly down to the bone.
Yeah, he's in a small factory, with all the other British children. Like, well, please, sir, can I have some more porridge? It's like, not until you edit 5 more minutes. It's so funny now. I picture Kelly as just like the this very Charles Dickens character now.
Right.
He's just so adorable.
We try our best to do as professional quality a thing on our absolutely zero budget.
Yeah, through slave labor, imported British slave labor.
I don't know. Maybe when we get a few more fanboys, we could consider asking for donations. Like we can dress up as Kelly. We can do a James Kelly cosplay, and be like, "Please, sir, can I have some money?" No, not until you release.
Well,
not until you release Fallout Equestria, the animated series.
I was able to work in another brick in the wall reference, and I forget what he said in one of the chat rooms, but I'm like, "How can you have any pudding if you can't eat your meat?" So, oh man, I used to have a playlist for school, like in finals time in university. I'd play through a lot of songs about school just to get me through it because. I hate that so much about university system. It's how like all the grades come down to like 3 or 4 tests. That's bullshit. It's like high school was much better. You had more distributed testing, and so it's not like SATs or something where your entire existence comes down to this 2-hour thingy. It's like, no, that's not how life works. Ugh.
No, it's not how life works.
Especially because I'm one of those overachieving pieces of crap that, like, I always had high GPA. So it's like, I'm really good at the long-term little grind. It's just like, I mean, I'm good at test taking too, but it's just annoying. I hated the SATs so damn much. Sit down for 8 hours and go through just an endless marathon. It's like, ugh. Anyway.
Hey. If you're good at test taking, you're not allowed to be, you're not allowed to hate it, because the rest of us hated it too, and we were shit at test taking.
It was kind of funny. My best friend from university, he's the other guy I got hopelessly addicted to Fallout, like really bad. He's not a pony guy, but it's still. And so we'd always study together because we were in the same major and classes and crap. He's really good at very detail oriented, like breaking down like formulas and stuff. And I'm better at like big picture visualization, and I'm faster at actual test taking. So he's a very smart guy, but he's just not quite as fast at test taking. So I always had that a small margin ahead of him, and I'm like, I'm sorry, brah. It's like we study together, we learn a lot off each other, but at the end of the day, it's 45 minutes. That's how it goes.
Fucking tests. I'm so glad. We don't do tests at film school. Our exam every term is to make a film. That's it. We don't write tests.
That's gotta
it's
be
the
fun,
best
though.
thing ever. It's fucking exhausting. The third year finals. The third years for animation, because I'm taking animation and screenwriting as my majors.
Noise.
We get 30 days to animate our 10-minute final film.
Okay.
Like we could choose what hours we work in those 30 days, but and it can be like 2D, stop motion, claymation, or
interesting.
fucking 3D or whatever. We can choose our medium, but I've seen this year I've seen third years who've lost 15 kilograms in that 30-day period.
Wow.
Because they don't sleep, they don't eat. Most of them sleep on campus. They take their sleeping bags to campus, or they just sleep in their cars.
Yeah, that's almost what you have to do.
Yeah, because animation, it's not like live action. I mean, we all know how long animation takes, especially if you've been a fan of Stable Tech. You know how long animation takes. Our third year final is basically make something that's 4 minutes shorter than Fallout Equestria, the animated series, episode 1, in 30 days.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember now. Tyler's original promo, the one that's like 1.5 of Little Pip talking in the camera, I believe that took him about 4 months to make.
What?
Yeah, and that was a lot of like action, is like the machine gun and everything, but
yeah,
because he started working on it after the other promo in March, and he didn't finish until October when I had come on board. So it's a grind.
But
that was a hobby side thing. For you, it's a main. It's your penultimate.
Yeah, for me, that's that's 17 hours a day every day for 30 days.
That's still a lot.
That's a lot. I'm both looking forward to it and dreading it.
Yeah.
But on the bright side, maybe one day East Corp can add animations, not Fallout Equestria. No.
No. We'll see what happens. We'll master every other craft first. But going back into the smaller, like, distributed grading, that's actually what kind of got me into writing in the first place. Was we had for university, I had to take like 2 or 3 like standard GE English classes that I hate. I hated the whole concept of GE. But at least I got some good life experience out of it. So we had a thing where basically at the beginning of each lecture, we'd have 10 minutes to just write 1 page of anything. It was literally just write. And so a lot of kids, they just got kids. We were 18 or whatever. We had one of those I forget what you call the notebooks. Composition books. The cow-looking covers of the black and white, those things. And we just write a page a day. And so after like 3 or 4 weeks, I just started like making it serialized, where, it was all one big story, and it was this kind of obvious Fallout like rip-off kind of progenitor thing. But I was mixing in other stuff, and it was enough, though. It was like 50 class periods where I'm writing this serialized story, and it was really good practice. So, yeah, no, I have to hand it to her. If it weren't for that class, I probably wouldn't have gotten into this level of writing.
In that case, it's a really, really good thing that you got into this level of writing.
And luckily, she liked it. So it was like, I passed the class. Wasn't all for naught.
Yeah. Because otherwise it would be
It'd be different. I mean, I put so much effort into the confessions over the years. Like it'd be hard imagining like my whole brony online persona experience without it now. That's a big chunk of it.
Exactly. Ugh, sorry. It is 4:30 in the morning. I've been up since 12.
Oh man. I had
So,
a weird night
um,
like that the other night where it's like I got home at 6 p.m. and had dinner and immediately fell asleep on the couch and then moved to my bed at some point in that time and then woke up at midnight and was up and then fell asleep again at 3 a.m. and then woke up at 6 for work. So I was not rested whatsoever. I had to get a Starbucks because otherwise I would die. And then freaking... Yeah, so that's like been my life the last like 3 months. I can't wait honestly until after the new year. It's so much easier for me. It's like I have one or two like my one parent birthday and then that's like it for like 5 months. And then I've got a bunch of federal holidays in America here. We've got President's Day and Martin Luther King Day, and so a ton of great 3-day weekends I can take advantage of and get freaking editing done and get freaking writing done and get this shit out there. Ah!
I know that feeling.
So
I know
frustrating.
That feeling so
I don't have
badly.
the energy when I get home from damn work, all this overtime I have to do.
Why do we have to do real people work?
I hate it so
Why
much.
can't we just...
Ah!
My real people working is fucking video editing for this fucking I hate video editing so much.
It's a grind. Any kind of editing is such a grind.
Yeah. I'm really, really, really fucking good at it, but I just can't. I can't just fucking working as a video editor professionally has killed my love of video editing entirely.
Yeah, that'll do it for you.
Meanwhile, writing is always fun. Even when it's not fun, it's still more fun than video editing.
No, it's like I couldn't imagine unless I was in some kind of like corporate like television environment. I couldn't imagine getting like burned out or sick of writing unless you were like constrained by a bunch of crazy limitations. Like you turn in a draft, they send back a ton of red marks, and you have to fix all the little details. That's the only time I could imagine getting burned out on writing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't like it's the big writer's dream to it's the big writer's dream to not have to do that, to skip that stage and just go straight to writing what you want to write.
Yeah, that's like the George R.R. Martins and Stephen Kings out there that can just crank out some novel and then it sells and you're fine. So you have a pre-installed fan base.
It's like, you know, exactly. It's having that fan base and it's getting that fan base really, really, really early in your life. You know, it's starting Rooster Teeth in your early 20s. It's, you know, it's getting a good writing job. That's the dream.
Oh, I know. That would be a great dream. Yeah, and then part of the reason it's like I'm just doing overtime now because I have to cover some credit card debt because of stupid frickin' Bay Area housing prices, which are completely unsustainable. I can't wait to get the hell out of here because California is bad in general about housing prices, but it's like at least if I can get back in like Sacramento area, I'll be much more set than I am here.
Which is a good thing, I suppose.
Yes, it means ideally less work, no more overtime. And the other thing, too, that this is why I was able to get so much done in Virginia. I had every other Friday off. So it's like I worked 9-hour days, but then every other Friday was off. So I had 3-day weekends almost every weekend, except for a few instances. And so it's like, because between those and the federal holidays, that was like every weekend covered, and those 3-day weekends. I'd get like all the chores and crap done on Friday, and then Saturday I could just write or whatever. and it was magical, and I got so much done. But now I can't because I'm freaking working overtime in December. Oh, so.
God, that just sounds absolutely horrifying.
But
I miss being a kid when December was off limits for work.
yeah, no kidding. I kind of had that in high school. Middle school, I didn't. Middle school, I went to a really preppy, terrible school that gave you homework over Christmas time, because we have like 2 weeks off for Christmas here, and that sucked. You know, if you're a teacher and you assign kids homework over, you know, Christmas, I hope you get fired. You know, you should be replaced. I'm sorry.
Right.
So,
I mean, it's impossible for South Africans to get assigned homework over Christmas because our school year ends in December and begins in January. So
that's nice, but you'd be surprised. Frickin' I took AP English too when I was in high school, and so we'd have to read a book over summer and basically have a book report done for the first day of class, which really sucked. So.
Oh God, that's horrible. Like I did AP English as well, but we never had anything like that.
Yeah, that's not fair, man.
Yeah,
Meh,
but
meh,
it's
meh.
just yeah.
Why can't someone fund my desire to just write frickin' horse fan fiction by myself in my house? That would be great.
Okay, so what? This is now the second time in this podcast where we've casually suggested that we really need.
This
money.
is like we need some kind of neat funding, like frickin' yeah. There's got to be a scholarship out there of just like give me money, please, because reasons.
Horse money. Give me nuclear horse money.
So, yeah.
We accept in the form of cashier's checks.
Yeah, it's anyway, but that's okay. It's art from adversity. So next time I get like, you know, really sick, then I'll have the energy and drive to write something new. I think though already, like I had a breakthrough on you and me have talked about this, but I had a breakthrough on episode 6 of Terminal Secrets, the last one I'm writing, and so actually I put 2 or 3 pages down the other night, and that was great. That really got my juices flowing. So I might put a little bit more work into that. And then the other thing, too, I haven't been able to edit stupid Confessions 5 because there's all this work going on below me. At the apartment below me, they're doing, like, ripping out the carpet or something. So up until, like, the late in the night, they're, like, jackhammers and stuff. And I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Oh, God.
So that took up all of November for me.
Yeah, no, time constraints is going to be an issue. I still have not finished writing Terminal Secrets Episode 5, which is getting fucking ridiculous, and I've now just got other work that's piling down onto me. I'm meant to, you know, I'm trying to get our new series Behind the Scenes started, which we should hopefully have a promo out within the next day or two, and I've just got pulled on to write and direct this new variety show that I can't really talk too much about, but it'll be coming out, but we've got to try and release it by the end of December.
Brady Bunch.
Which fucking like it's a nightmare. Work like it's a good kind of nightmare for me at least, but it's still this is the busiest, most work-filled December I've ever had.
Yeah, no, I know. I really wasn't expecting that. I never had busy Decembers before, but it's like last year, well, the last 2 years when I was at Virginia, the shipyard closed like for 2 weeks because it's Christmas and, you know, no one wants to work. So we always had 2 weeks off for December. That was nice. But then last year I get here and frickin' immediately was given like 3 weeks of overtime. So that like completely slowed me down. And that's when I thought that, you know, episode 4 was being recorded when it wasn't because of VAs. And so, yeah, that like derailed me up until like mid-January when I was able to like get home and get back in the swing of things.
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah, that's
I'm passing out where I sit at the moment.
Nice.
I think it might be time for us to call for us to call it on this episode of the Breakroom podcast.
Sounds good.
Before I fall asleep mid-podcast.
Okay, sounds good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed your time here listening to us in the East Corp Breakroom podcast. If you've still not seen Westworld, then you fucking deserve all the spoilers that we just gave you.
You were warned.
You're warned. And something about goodbye and good night.
Yep.
I
Goodbye,
think.
everybody.